All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with Jordan Bianchi. We are motorsports writers at The Athletic. And today we're here to talk about the New Hampshire Motor Speedway race, the opening race of round 2 of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. I'm here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And quite a statement was made by one team today, Jordan, and it's not the team that I've been talking about, but it is the team that
somebody beat Toyota.
It is the team that I picked before the playoffs, so maybe I'm good either way.
You covered yourself. Way to go. You covered yourself. It took a page out of my playbook, man. You say enough, you cover your bases, you're going to be right, and eventually, great job on that.
Chris Gabehart, when we were talking to him after the race, Chris Gabehart, competition director for Joe Gibbs Racing, so we were asking him about the Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs incident. He said, quote, "The biggest thing you've got to take away from today is with this aero package and with the same tire as Phoenix at a 1-mile track, the Penske cars are completely untouchable again." So,
I swear I heard that somewhere else. Funny I heard that, but okay. Can I ask you a really important question though before we get to who's better, who's going to line up better at Phoenix, et cetera, et cetera? Very pressing question. How much money would you pay to be a fly on the wall for the Joe Gibbs Racing competition meeting on Monday?
Not as much as I originally thought before doing the post-race interviews. I don't think quite as much. But
really? Why is that?
I don't know. I think that this is something that they can sort of sort through. I don't know. I don't think this is the type of thing that lingers necessarily. I mean, we talked to, Denny Hamlin, who says, "Hey, listen, I didn't do it on purpose." He says that he was trying to obviously move him out of the way, it sounds like, but to spin him on purpose, spin his teammate on purpose, Denny Hamlin says, no, that's not the case. So let me find his exact quote if I can, because we just got off pit road. But yeah, I mean, basically it's, I don't, he said, "I certainly did not want to spin out certainly a teammate. I was trying to get space to race and trying to get by the 54. So, now could he have been more patient? Obviously, could Ty Gibbs have given more room there? Obviously, but we asked Chris Gabehart, about the racing ethics in that situation, what the etiquette is. And, is a non-playoff driver allowed to, should they be racing their playoff teammates that hard, right? Like, I mean, Ty Gibbs could have given Bell a break and Hamlin a break. And, he said that's something that we have to sort through, like, and talk about as a group and get a reminder of, because obviously people were on 2 different pages with that today, or 3 different pages, maybe, if you include Bell. But, and then Joe Gibbs said, "Listen, I'm going to let my drivers decide it. It's all between the drivers. That's how I've always handled it. I'm not getting involved in terms of right and wrong," as what he was basically saying. Is like, it's up to that's for the drivers to hash it out. So I asked if Denny Hamlin's worried about Ty Gibbs saying "game on," right? And if he's worried about Gibbs doing something crazy in the next couple weeks or something, and he said no, he's not worried about it. So I don't know. Are you thinking that it's going to be something that lingers?
I don't think it's something that lingers, because I think you nip this in the bud, and it's not like, I don't think Ty Gibbs is going to go out and look for retribution these next few weeks. But I think when you step back and look at it from a 30,000 foot perspective, this is emblematic of the issues within Joe Gibbs Racing, and particularly the issues with the 54 team and its driver. There have been instances, and you can go back to the Xfinity Series race a few years ago at Martinsville, where Ty Gibbs has put himself before the team. He crashes his teammate Brandon Jones to win that race when he didn't need to do it. And if Jones wins that race, he's racing for a championship. And in this instance, I get it. You're racing hard, but it's 11th, 12th place, 10th place, whatever it is. In the grand scheme of things, that 1 or 2 spots, that means nothing to Ty Gibbs. In the grand scheme of things, those positions mean everything to Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin. It's stepping back and saying, I'm going to put the organization first and foremost. And especially when you're not in the playoffs. And I'm not sitting there saying you have to roll over for your teammates. You can't race them hard to a certain level. And we'll probably get into it later about team orders and the Josh Berry, Ryan Blaney thing. And I've got some thoughts there. But in this instance, there's no good in this. And it wasn't like it just happened in a blink of an eye. If you'd been, you've been watching this, you'd listen to the radio, there had been frustration brewing on the 11 team of how this was unfolding. And it should have been nipped in the bud there. And to me, this speaks to the greater issues with the driver of the 54 car about maturity. And it's been a big thing and a big word this year about him and his growth as a driver and the steps he needs to do to become a better, more well-rounded race car driver. And to me, this is an instance where if you're going to be that driver, the leader of a team who's going to carry this organization forward for the next 20 years, which is what Gibbs wants him to be, then you need to look at the bigger picture and step back and say, these guys are racing for a championship. We're in stage 1 or whatever it was early in the race. We don't need to be doing this. I'm going to let these guys go and be smart about it. You listen to Josh Berry's interview after the race, and he said, I was going to race Ryan hard, but I was also cognizant and aware of the situation that they were in. And that seems to be escaping from Ty Gibbs a little bit in this situation. Do I think this is a problem going forward? No, not necessarily in the short term. But I think big picture, this is something that needs to be addressed and frankly probably should have been addressed a long time ago, maybe even after Martinsville, the Xfinity Series race.
Well, it's obviously a tough situation in that Ty Gibbs has been fast lately. And he's out there thinking, hey, man, I want to go win my first race and all that stuff. So I get that, but I disagree with him running his playoff teammates as hard as he did in a round 2 playoff opener. I think it's look, you want to run hard and try to win the race, great, but when those, it's clear that those guys are probably number one, not having the day they want to be having so far. They were in the teens or something at that point. They're trying to get back in the top 10. We know that this is a track where track position matters. For Ty Gibbs, he's got to have the bigger picture view. He's got to have the more holistic view of the whole company and what's good for the whole company. You don't just roll over for him, but to hold them up in the way he did and race them as hard as he did, I think it's a bridge too far. Now, did he deserve to get wrecked for it? No. But if Denny's saying, I was trying to get him out of the way and go on and not spin him out, if Denny's word for it, okay, I could see that, because it sounded like Denny on the radio is saying, why is nobody talking to this guy? What's he doing? Are they afraid to talk to him? Because on Ty Gibbs radio, nobody's saying, Ty, hey, let's, get out of the way here, buddy. And I say that in the sense that we've seen that with other playoff drivers, right? In fact, you think about Ryan Blaney when he wasn't in the championship the year Logano
2022
won, right? Yeah. And he sort of played the wingman there, right? And look, did he love doing it? But he knew that when it was his turn and when he had an opportunity, it was part of contributing to the organization, like not racing too hard when his teammate was going for a championship. So I think from my view, Ty Gibbs had, 26 races to do everything he could to win. Didn't do that. Now, of course, he still wants to win and should still have the right to go out there and win and doesn't have to roll over by any means. But I don't think it would have been rolling over to give up those spots. It wasn't even toward the end of the race, as you said. It was fairly early. That we don't know that would have been for the win or whatever. And again, I think, especially because he's going to lead the organization someday, he needs to also show, I have the organization's best interests at heart, right? We were talking going into Daytona about how we knew that Austin Dillon was going to be the most committed pusher ever to Kyle Busch, because Austin Dillon won the race and his sole focus was going to be, I have got to get Kyle Busch into the playoffs. That will be at the expense for myself and all else, right? So I think as Ty gets older, he will have that view and realize that view, because the company is so important, will be so important to him and his family, and he'll be in more of a leadership role and all that stuff. Right now, though, he's trying to win his first race, make a name for himself. So that was the thought in his head, I'm sure. He certainly doesn't need to do anything else in terms of like the game on comment. But again, I don't think that he needed to get dumped for it, but I'm sure from Denny's mind, it's time to go. So
yeah. You wonder if this is the, lack of a better term, lesson that Gibbs would need in this situation of like, at some point the dam was going to break.
Didn't sound like he learned a lesson.
It didn't sound like
immediately.
No. But not immediately. But you wonder if the fallout from this, whether that's Monday in the competition meeting or down the road of, hey, I got to be smarter. I got to look at the bigger picture in this sense. And you make a great case about Logano in 2022. Or Ryan Blaney in 2022, Austin Dillon, Joey Logano in 2014 at Talladega, when Keselowski absolutely needed a win to advance. Logano throughout that race didn't leave his side and did everything he could to push him to victory lane. The best teams, the best organizations have great chemistry among their teams and their drivers. They may not like each other per se sometimes, but they know that they have to pull on the same rope. And in this instance, and certainly, and there's been other instances where it doesn't seem like that rope is being pulled. And the unfortunate reality is it's a tough situation for the team because of who he is. He's the grandson of the owner. And there's a sense within the organization sometimes, and we heard it on Denny's radio, that, he's maybe handled with kid gloves when maybe that isn't the case. And sometimes you need tough love. And yeah, he's a young driver. I get that. But he's also in his third year. Like, this isn't, his third year at the Cup Series. Like, he's over 100 starts now. Yeah, he's young age-wise, but maturity-wise, on the race car, he's been at this. And it just seems like at some point you're going to have to get that lesson. We'll see how this is going to be going forward. I think this is probably a non-issue for the rest of the playoffs. It's, like I said, I don't expect Gibbs to go out there and do anything, just because that is, that's escalating something that doesn't need to be escalated to a much higher and level. But it is just emblematic of kind of the underlying issues with that 54 team over the last year or so.
When Ty Gibbs came out of the garage and was going back on the track, I was turning to a couple of my media colleagues in the media center, and I said, like, what are the realistic chances here that he could go out and like dump Denny right now? And I mean, it wasn't zero.
No,
you know what I mean?
Oh, I was texting.
I don't think.
No,
I don't think it was like over 20%. I would maybe
there
say
there was a chance though. That's the point. Like,
yeah,
that's the problem. But that's the problem, is if the shoe had been reversed, right? And let's just use Logano and Blaney, because we're talking about them. If that had happened with those two guys, we wouldn't even be having that conversation. It'd be over. It would have been like, nope, there's no way that person is going to go out there and do that. And honestly, too, you said, to go back even further, it probably would have been on the radio. Somebody would have come on the radio and be like, guys, you got to let so-and-so go here. Like, what are we doing? That's the thing, is there's kid gloves when it comes to Ty sometimes. And it's for whatever reason. And instead of just handling it like and treating him like you would any other race car driver, and sometimes you have to be very abrupt and in their face and just tell them what it is. There isn't that doesn't happen. And unfortunately, it leads to moments like this.
I mean, you're looking at it probably, if you work there, as like, this is, one of my bosses or future boss. And, you're probably not going to try to burn a bridge by yelling at him. But, I think that leaves him in an unfortunate position where who is teaching him the lessons? And, is it Gapard? Is it other drivers? Denny's the only veteran guy now. And I don't know if he's listening to Denny, but I think it's a challenging situation because he's clearly talented. He's clearly a really, really good driver.
Absolutely.
I mean, he hasn't won yet, but the guy is I think he's really good. So if he puts it all together, he's going to be a regular race winner in the series. I think it's just, I still think there's that. And you know what? Maybe if he had won a race by now or won a race earlier this season, what we saw today doesn't happen, right? But he's still like, I've got to break through. I've got to prove myself. I've got to shut up all my critics. NASCAR memes every week is doing the Ty Gibbs hate watch.
Yeah.
As the last post on the slide, but I'm sure he wants to answer everybody and prove himself. So that's tough, right? But he's also at some point got to say, man, the future is the company, and as hard as it is, I got to put the company first.
Agreed. And here's the thing about the jokes and the memes and everything else, right? What he ended up doing was actually playing into it and making all of that criticism he faces even more so. And he kind of reinforced it in a way of saying, see, this is what we've been saying about this guy, selfish, puts the team behind, he's before the team. Whereas if he would have been like, hey, these guys are racing for playoffs and I need to let these guys go, it would have been like, oh, maybe, this is a different time. Maybe he's a more mature driver, looks at the bigger picture, that kind of thing.
Well, it wasn't the day that JGR was looking for overall, aside from just this incident. We certainly thought that Christopher Bell was going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, after he came for the tire test. And now he did rally to finish 6th when he got 4 fresh tires, restarted 12th. But that wasn't the day that they were going for overall, certainly. And, Denny finishing 12th, he said that was, they were obviously really disappointed. Briscoe finishes 10th, which is actually better than they were running a lot of the race. So suddenly, it's sort of like a head scratcher in a way for, I don't really know. I mean, you would have thought this would be a great track for them, and they didn't quite have the speed. So what do you make of that?
It's hard to say. It's in the grand scheme of things, I think it kind of plays into what we've thought, which was when you look at Phoenix, the 12 team is the team to beat. They have been that way for the last few years there. When you look at the playoff race at Martinsville, the 12 team is exceptional. And to me today, I thought that the JGR cars were going to be fast, but I didn't think it was going to be head and shoulders above everybody else. I think collectively both thought that Penske was going to come to play today, and they did. And it's, when you have a bad day and you're JGR and you look at where Hamlin and Briscoe and Bell finished, and you're still, gutting out good finishes, that's a good problem to have, especially going to a racetrack at Kansas, which you should be fast at. It could have been a lot worse. You could have been 23-11 today, which were completely out to lunch and had a bad day, and their bad day is they're in a horrible spot in the points. So it's, it's kind of a first world problem for JGR, but it doesn't change the narrative in the sense that we still think those 3 drivers are going to be factors in this thing to the end. But you've got to figure out what it is with this 12 team that is so good on these type of racetracks, because man, today I look at this saying this was a statement by the 12 team. And we've heard all of this talk about JGR and Toyota and, what do they got underneath their cars and that kind of thing. And Ryan Blaney and that 12 team today came and kicked everyone's butt. And there was a moment there in the race where they got stuck in traffic. There was no panic. There was just workmanlike, business-like attitude. And they had such a confidence today that they knew they were going to win as long as they didn't do anything stupid and put themselves in a bad spot, and they didn't. And to me, I look at this saying, if I'm JGR, what do we have to do at Phoenix to beat these guys? Because, man, if they get there, they're going to be tough. But I'm not panicking. It just kind of reinforces my belief of we are going to have to fight this 12 team at Phoenix, and it's going to be damn hard.
I don't know why. Why are you focusing so much on the 12 team specifically and leaving out?
Because what the 12 you compared to like Logano, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Penske as a whole.
I'm
but you're
because I've looked at Logano. I've seen what Logano is this year, and that's great. And he had great speed today, but a lot of weeks he has struggled this year, and even in the playoffs, consistently having good speed. The 12 team this year has been one of the fastest, if not the fastest. And what makes them so good at a racetrack like New Hampshire and Martinsville in Phoenix is long green flag speed. They did it again today. It's one of the reasons they won this race. Consistently this year, they have had the fastest car. I can't say the same thing about the 22. Yes, the 22 figures out how to get things done. They rise to the occasion. I know all of that. But I look at the 12 team and they are doing it. They have done it. And I think they're going to continue to do it. I just don't have the same level of confidence right now in the 22 team as I do the 12 team. That's why.
I mean, I'm putting all Penske in a group here because, you had Josh Berry, obviously built in the Penske shop, extremely fast, was right there, challenging for the race win. Joey Logano led a race high 147 laps today. That is the most laps he's led in a single race, I believe, since the 2022 championship race, if I'm not mistaken. I just think in general, they just hit on it and looked really, really, really good. So I respect why you're saying the 12 team, because they're more likely to make a deep playoff run. But if Joey Logano is at Phoenix, still alive, whoa, that's really scary for everybody.
I agree with you if they can get to Phoenix. I guess my thing is I don't know if they can get to Phoenix. That's my thing.
I got you.
Where I feel like Blaney, and because he's got the playoff points and he's got a little bit more of a safety net, can get to Phoenix. His path to Phoenix is a little, I won't say easier, but it's a lot less hurdles, right? Where, Logano's.
I get that, but I mean, Logano today, he entered below the cut line. Sure. He got 19 stage points. Yep. He finished 4th, and now he is like 24 points up on the cut line after one race when he was below going into it.
Yep.
I mean,
it's great.
Look out.
They
know how to do it.
I don't disagree. I do want to see what speed they have on the 1.5 mile. I think Kansas is going to be big for them. And the 22 team, and Penske in general, really overall, is not been good on road courses at all for a while. And so that's a little bit concerning where, Blaney now can, not worry about it. We'll see. Like if he gets there, absolutely, 100%. And we saw it last year. We saw that last year where Logano got to Phoenix and they won the championship. He could do that again. I just think that it's going to be really hard for him to get there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're of two different schools of thought on that one because obviously he's my championship pick, so I'm thinking he will be there. Yeah, so far, I mean, I'm looking at my final 4. I'm not wavering on it at this point because I have Blaney, Logano, Hamlin, and Briscoe. Although I do think the Hendrick cars had something to be happy about today. This is one of their worst tracks. Elliott had a terrible qualifying effort and ends up finishing 5th. So that was quite a rebound for him after qualifying 27th. William Byron finishes 3rd. Larson finishes 5th despite having to hit the brakes in that moment with Reddick late. That might have been maybe the final pit stop, I think. So, I think they can look at this and go, hey, overall, we'll take that. But still, if you look at it, like Hendrick led a total of 7 laps today between their cars. JGR led a total of 19 laps, and that was only Briscoe. Bell and Hamlin did not lead a single lap today at a track where, again, they were among the favorites. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that, Penske, yeah, it's amazing how they do it year after year at these certain type of tracks, and everybody keeps talking about it. But this is why I kept harping on it going into the playoffs. These flat tracks are so good for them. They just have something extra there. And when you put a lot of them in the playoffs, lo and behold, look what happens. So
I agree. Can I ask you about Chase Elliott today? I mean, impressive that he rebounded to finish 5th. Good points day, not on a track that's one of his best. We know Hendrick's issues here. I've said this before, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's concerning that they don't qualify well, right? Like they ranked 17th in average starting position this year, and they lost stage points. They lost first stage points today. And for a driver who's very much fighting for his playoff hood, and for a team that doesn't lead a ton of laps and hasn't been in position to win a lot of races, again, this is a huge issue with this team. And I heard Chase's comments afterwards the race. He told NBC Sports he owned it. He's like, my fault. And it's great accountability. And it's the example that we just talked about with Ty Gibbs about like, hey, you need to own it and step up. But like, this is not like an issue that's just cropped up. This has been a season-long thing of them not qualifying well. And it's concerning. And I genuinely feel like it's going to bite them in the butt at some point.
Well, I think it has already. I mean,
Fair.
if you look at the position they're in, yes, they were able to salvage that today, I guess. But as you noted, they don't have any stage points to show for it. So, well, I guess in stage 2 they end up getting 4 stage points, but
they still lost in stage 1. I mean, so
yeah,
it's great, but those come back to bite you, man.
No, I mean, and he's already not in a great position, and he already knows he needs to qualify better, and they've still struggled. And I mean, they're not the only one. Bell was talking about going into this weekend how they've got to qualify better. They've got to qualify better. Then he went out and qualified, not so great. What, 17th or something? I can't remember what it was, but that wasn't, or 19th Bell
19th.
qualified. So,
yep.
It's hard. But yeah,
sure.
certainly got to make improvement there, because I mean, let's see, Elliott this year, his average start is 16.9. Yeah. Last year, his average start was 11.6.
Mm-hmm.
He had the year he got in the snowboarding accident, he had a really bad qualifying time, 17.3. But before that, it was never over 11, I don't think. So it's 10.7, 8.1, 9.0, 10.9, 11.1, 10.8. So yeah, I mean, 16.9, 17th place.
That's good.
Yeah, it's not, you're right.
And on a track that's really hard to pass, though I thought today's race was pretty competitive. Track position is important at a time when we talk about, how close the competition is and how everybody's running just fractions of a second apart from each other. Like, that's just the difference between starting in the back and towards the front is everything. And you go back to Dover this year, where he started on the pole, I think it was, and they talked about, like, man, it's so different up here, and how you run your race and how you manage your race, and you can be in control of it. And it's like, instead of being in control of a race, they're having to spend all of stage 1 having to play catch up. And it's like, you can never get into a rhythm. And yeah, he finished 5th today, and great. And if you can keep knocking out 5th place finishes, that's going to get you to Phoenix. That's great. But you're not going to be able to do that every week, because things are going to happen. And it's just, these points are so valuable, especially starting this round. The first round, you can get away with it a little bit more, but it's starting this round, it's really about upping your game. And they, to me, in qualifying, need to up their game.
What else jumped out at you from this race today? I thought I was very curious to see how Ross Chastain was going to do after he did the tire test here as well. It was Bell, Logano, and Ross Chastain. They were just okay. He finished 9th. And he is the first driver below the cut line. Just to recap, Chastain, Hendrick. But by the way, I don't know if I properly expressed my puzzlement with Hendrick when we were talking about Penske earlier, because if you look on the Dirty Mo slideshow they put together on Instagram of all the hosts' various picks, I was the only one that has Hendrick moving on into the next round. And I felt pretty good about it, honestly, going into today, because I was like, well, look at Penske. He was just not up there. And then I guess he got damaged from a wreck at one point and lost his track position, but it just, he was gonna qualify top 5, and then he sort of slid out of the last corner there and lost a bunch of time and had to start further back. But I still thought he'll rally up there, but he just never did. I thought he would have a Barry-like performance today. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say you're higher on than I am. I haven't seen the speed and consistent performance from them to think that, but your logic makes sense. If you're looking at how Penske is on these flat mile-ish tracks, that you would think that would carry over, because it certainly worked for Barry today and it worked for Logano and Blaney. But Cindric's had an interesting year. It's just not been the level of consistency, high level of consistency performance you want to see.
Yeah. So anyway, Chastain's 12 out, Cindric's 19 out. It's going to be hard for Hendrick to come back from that, honestly.
Yeah.
Chastain, Chastain going to Kansas is a huge opportunity for him. He just won the last mile and a half track, traditional mile and a half track, all the way back at Coke 600, right?
So wild. Think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I have been thinking about it. I asked drivers about it all weekend. Yeah, that's the last. That was the last true intermediate race. So I mean, if you're not counting like Darlington and stuff, but
I guess Michigan, but I mean, like a mile and a half for sure. And it's just,
right.
It's such a departure from the era where it felt like we were racing on a mile and a half racetracks all the time, you know? It's crazy.
Next week's going to be, the last weekend of September, and it's been since the last weekend of May, basically. But so that's I still think Chastain's not out of it. And then, Reddick's 23 down. Bubba Wallace is 27 down. They both, 23-11 just totally missed it, I guess. But you do look at Kansas as a track where they have been good. Now they haven't been as good lately. So really, to me, next week is sort of a season defining race for 23-11 in a way, because sure, you could go to the Roval, and Reddick's been good at road courses and Bubba's gotten a lot better there, but you don't want to go dramatically below the cut line, or even double digits below the cut line, probably. Right. So, I don't think unfortunately I picked both them to miss this next round. And right now it's looking that way, because I don't know how they dig themselves out of this if they don't have a great Kansas race,
No, I thought Bubba was well positioned to make it into the next round, and a threat to make it the championship 4. I felt optimistic about Reddick, maybe not as high. I did not see this coming. I did not see them having a horrible, bad day at New Hampshire. And even if like you have a bad day, like, you struggle, figure out a way to finish top 15, but you put yourself in a points hole now where you really need a great day at Kansas, and you may need a lot of things to go right for you at the Roval. And that's a tough thing to be in. And I am really surprised at where this organization is at right now. It felt like the 23 team was really coming into its own. Reddick started the playoffs well at Darlington, and it just hasn't been good. And, and I looking at doing some research and everything going into this weekend. And then, during the race too, as I was looking at this race, and it's like, they've only won one race this year combined. That's crazy to think about when you think about how great this organization was last year. And I know Bubba didn't make the playoffs last year, but you look at the statistics he had, top 5s, top 10s, average finish, laps led, like he had a really good year. And he would have made the playoffs except for the 2 surprise winners at the end there. Like this team felt like it was really starting to like break through that stranglehold that the big 3 had. And it's hard not to think that this is maybe a step back, and it's going to be interesting to see what they can do at Kansas. Maybe they regain that mile and a half track speed that they've had at times, and they've won at Kansas before, but it's hard to be confident right now where this organization is at. Yeah,
it's definitely a head scratcher. Man, they've had such a weird, strange year, but
let's not forget that too.
yeah.
Like,
no, that's right.
It's just, and can I ask you a question? And I don't know the answer to this, and this is more of a spitballing thing. Is like, is there any credence to the fact that like the lawsuit has been a distraction? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so. I don't think so either. But
no, what's a distraction is you're not the number 1 team for your manufacturer, because that's where all the speed and the wins are coming from. You've got to be Penske, Gibbs, or Hendrick, and if you're not running for one of those teams, the whole myth of parity, I don't think is quite what it has been, right? I mean, because if you if you think about it, sure, you have guys that can pop up and win a race every now and then and all that stuff. But it's maybe parity, but it's parity among the top 3 teams.
It's not the parity you think it is. You look at the organization, and the numbers are like 22 out of 30 races this year have been won by the big 3 or their affiliate organizations. It's pretty remarkable. And that, I can't believe I'm going to walk down this road. We're going to, talk about playoff conversation and everything about, oh, well, if we had the old point system and this, it's like, no, man, there is no parity. Parity is dead. This is how it's always been, where you have like 2 or 3 organizations that have separated themselves from everybody else, and their drivers within those organizations fight it out. That's not parity in my eyes. And it's challenging, but it did seem like 23XI had kind of broken the mold though. Last year with Reddick winning the regular season championship and winning races, it felt like they had kind of burst through, but I guess it's a real fine line. And at the end of the day, you're right, Jeff. Like if you're not one of those big 3 organizations, your window is very tiny, and things kind of have to fall in place for you to consistently year after year be a threat.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, if you're, it seems like right now, if you're not one of those 3, every now and then somebody can pop up and win a race. You can certainly make the playoffs. You can certainly run top 10. But to have that sort of consistent speed is just, I mean, it's being sort of hogged right now by all the top teams. So, but I do think though, that if you look at the top teams, there's some sort of parity among them, because it's sort of dizzying to see, we'll talk about Hendrick, then we'll talk about Penske, then we'll talk about Gibbs. And the top drivers among those teams, I mean, it's almost 10 drivers really, if you lump them all together. So, that's still a worthy battle in itself in a way, because you're trying to see who's the best. But
here's the stat really quick. 23 of 30 races this year have been won by the big 3: Penske, Gibbs, Hendrick, and I'm including Josh Berry's victory in that as well. So 23 out of 30 races this year. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, and it would be more, but you have to look at 4 were won on a road course by Shane Van Gisbergen.
There's that as well.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That sort of skews things too, because it would be, if you like looked at, say, ovals, for instance.
Ty Gibbs finished second at the Chicago. Chase Briscoe finished second at Sonoma, I think. I think Bell finished second at Watkins Glen. So I mean, I'm just, that number could be a lot higher.
Yeah. Do you want to do the good race poll now? Because
Sure.
we know we have to have some playoffs talk on this, a playoffs update. So, I really haven't thought too much about it, but I did feel like it was a good race. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was one of the more compelling New Hampshire races, because I don't think New Hampshire really is usually that amazing or anything. Do you?
No, most New Hampshire races are pretty forgettable. But I thought today's race was very digestible. It felt short in a good way. It didn't drag on at times. It felt like it was over very quickly. There was passing. We saw Chase Elliott. We saw Ryan Blaney. We saw a lot of guys be able to make moves. To me, like, this is about as good as New Hampshire is going to get. I thought it was a very solid race. Like, I don't really have any issues with it. And I don't know how people are going to respond to it. I think highly of it. I think very highly of it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know either what people will say, but I don't know why people would vote it down, I guess, or what the reasons would be to not say it's a good race. So
I feel like I say that most weeks.
But I'm just saying, I didn't think there was anything. I wasn't like, oh, this is boring. I mean, it was compelling battles for the lead several times. I didn't think dirty air was as much of a factor. I thought the tire, probably the new tire they brought had to play somewhat of a role, right? Yeah. I mean, and I know it wasn't everything, because like Chase Elliott was on slightly older tires and he was battling with Logano, and for a while who was on newer tires, but still, I mean, okay, like they were about even. It was 12 lap difference in tires. So I don't know. I thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. So
I agree.
all right. So where are you landing on this? Are you ready to reveal? Because I have mine.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I've got 87.2.
I went 77. Here we go.
Oh, shoot. Whoa, 77.
Yeah. I'm probably in the
You
low
don't think
end.
it'll be in the 80s? I might have gone a little high, but I think it'll be in the 80s.
So I'm kind of overthinking this because, Bristol, for example, which I lost last week. Congratulations on your win. I thought was a terrific race, and it went the other way. And I tend to get a little overly optimistic, and I let that cloud my voting a little bit. If this was me, I would have voted this easily in the 80s, much higher, but I don't know. I just seemed like 77 was a fair compromise. If there's some people are going to ding this thing for some reason or another. So yeah, that's how I ended up.
Okay.
I hope you're right. I hope people respond to this race because this was a good NASCAR race. This is what NASCAR was. This is the fastest car won. He earned it. He worked for it. He was able to pass. This is what NASCAR is on these type of tracks, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah. Again, especially for New Hampshire standards, I thought.
Yeah.
Big Joe Wall has us at 16-15. You're winning right now. So, we'll see what it is after this week. But I have to say, Jordan, as well. Obviously New Hampshire has returned to the playoffs just for this year. It's gone already. Next year out of the playoffs. But the fans I talked to, we had a big tweet up today, and people up here are really energized by this race being in the fall. Like to them, obviously this place used to have 2 races, right?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be like a July, September kind of thing. But remember, this race used to kick off the start of the chase for the first 5-6 years of the chase, whatever it was. The old 10 race chase. And I don't know, there's something feels right about this track being in the playoffs. And the fans really respond to it. I got several people telling me how the camping was much more filled in than they've seen it in recent years. And then during the race, the track announced a sellout.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, they did.
Another sellout. Good. Feels like there's been a good number of those this year.
Yeah. And I don't think this is a track that's, removed certainly a number of stands or anything like that. Like, I think they're relatively what they've been the last decade or so, unless I'm mistaken. But people love their racing up here. I know it's cliche, but they feel like they get overlooked, and they don't have many opportunities to come out to a race. Obviously, I do think this is one of the tracks that's better with one race, but we're probably, I don't know, about an hour and a half from Boston, maybe, or something. So, there's a lot of people up here that are just really passionate about it, and they came out in a big way today. So, I think it was a good day, beautiful weather. So, it was a winning weekend from my view.
I love it. Another example of why tracks with one date is the way to go for a lot of places. Like this is, it's unfortunate for the Northeast race fans because you lost it at New Hampshire, Pocono, and Dover. But it does make going to a racetrack feel special. It seems to kind of drive people to the track and get them out there. Maybe it's a coincidence that there have been seemingly a more number of sellouts this year than in years past. But I think it's a good strategy, and a lot of tracks have had success with it. And I think a lot of tracks could look at this and say, man, are we best served by having one date? Yeah. Having 2, losing a second date would suck for a lot of reasons, but maybe in the big picture, having one is the way to go.
What else is on your list before we talk about playoff stuff?
So this is a hypothetical, a little bit, and I tweet about this, but the Barry Blaney thing, man, I hate team orders. But you have to.
It didn't seem like there was, though.
No, there was not. There was not. No. There was no team orders. Let's be very clear. There was no team orders. But I'm saying is like, if you're watching this and you're the 12 team, like, aren't you like sitting in the back of your mind going, guys, like, can we just back off here? Like, Like there's a case to be made of why team orders in this case would have been a good thing.
I don't know that in round or the first race of a round, that would be as big of a thing, because you're probably looking at it like, hey, obviously we want to win this race, but if we get past here, we're still going to finish second, and we're still going to be in a great playoff position. And nobody else is going to lock themselves in if this guy wins, right? And I mean, you look at Blaney, right? Like, let's say he didn't win this race today, but points wise, I mean, I guess you'd have to adjust this a little bit.
He's got the bonus points and everything. That's the thing.
He's the points leader right now, and he is right now already after one race plus 49 to the cutoff. So let's just say he hadn't advanced. So I mean, so that's why now, if it was an elimination race, I think there's a lot more desperation of like, we have to win, like get out. You know what I mean? Like
I get it.
That's where that kind of comes into play more. But I don't know. I don't think today was as much of that.
I get it what you're saying, and you're right. Like, we've got speed. This is the 12th team. They've been good, but you're going to a Kansas track that historically has been problematic in playoffs. It's been crazy most years. You don't know what you're going to be there. Then you go to the Roval, where Penske hasn't been great on road courses for some time. Like, and if you can get that win and lock yourself in, we have seen what Penske can do when they work ahead. Like, you're right. Maybe it's not the race you make a stink in, but I think big picture I do, because again, you get bonus points for winning, which you carry forward with you into that last round, which is so crucial, especially with Talladega sitting out there. I mean, I'm telling you, if I was on the 12th team, I would have had a really hard time not screaming to the 21 team. Y'all need to back it down a little bit. Just please look at the big picture here. But this isn't Formula One, so that's okay.
Blaney has now won 3 races in a season for the 3rd year in a row and the 4th year overall. He's never won 4 races in a season. There's 6 races left, Jordan. Does he get win number 4 in a season this year and break his own record for that?
Yes, because I have him in Phoenix, and I think he probably wins Martinsville.
Yeah, I think he'll win Martinsville. So
and we had this
Phoenix
conversation.
Could be too.
Yeah, I mean, he could. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to watch the evolution of Ryan Blaney, because there wasn't many years ago where it was like he'd win one race and that would be it for his career. And you're looking at it now. And then how many times did we talk about come the playoffs where he would make a mistake and it was like, man, what are you doing? Like, at Kansas a few years ago, he spun himself out and crashed. He's had different issues throughout the years. And it was like, man, this guy, is he ever going to fulfill his potential? Is he ever going to get it? He's not, he's not money. He doesn't come through in the clutch. It's like, he's now that driver who, like, come the playoffs, it's like you expect him to raise his game. He did it last year. He did it the year before, obviously. And it's like, now he doesn't make mistakes behind the wheel. This team doesn't shoot themselves in the foot. They're robotic in a lot of sense. And they just go about this now. And this is a team that is very much have come into their own. It's in a lot of respects. It's like, it's the young driver who was like, had to go through the struggle a little bit and figure it out. And once he was able to break through, now he's a perennial championship contender and is in that situation once again.
Yep. All right. Well, we've been putting it off a little bit. It's time to talk about the playoffs and what the future could be. Jordan, the playoff committee had a meeting on Wednesday, and I can fill you in on that if you're interested.
I mean, I don't know what happened. Please enlighten me.
Well, first of all, before I say this, I did check with NASCAR to make sure that I'm not stepping on any toes here by saying something that I'm not authorized to say as part of the being in the committee meetings. And so, again, I was told, as the last time I told you guys about this Brickyard 400 weekend, that as long as I'm not attaching names to what was said, then the general discussions and what happened is free to be shared. So that's the ground rules I'm going to go by here. It was really interesting because Tim Clark from NASCAR has put together this committee and did, in my opinion, a great job by getting a bunch of different voices on it, like having Mark Martin participate, knowing that Mark Martin was pro 36 races, right? Even though this was just sort of a feedback forum for where NASCAR should go with this and all that stuff. This committee is, by the way, not deciding the playoffs. It's a feedback session. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Right. So Tim Clark opened up this recent meeting and he said, has anybody's opinion changed from the start of the year? Because in the first meeting of the year, one person passionately spoke up for 36 races and everybody else was trying to think of something within the framework, whether it was the old chase or modified playoffs or something like that. And it didn't really feel like at the beginning of the year that 36 races was even a possibility at all. This meeting was interesting in that numerous people, maybe half a dozen, spoke about 36 races and made the case for 36 races and why they feel that that would be the best thing for the sport. And it was compelling, you know, for all the reasons we've talked about all year. I am on that train myself. I used to, at the start of the year, if you'd say what would be your preferred playoff format, I would have said the 10 race, just go back to the 10 race chase, or the sort of mini chase that you and I have talked about. We like this format where it would have been, let's say 12 drivers, 5 races cut in half. So then you have 5 races, 6 drivers, race it out, right?
5 and 5.
So like a mini chase. Yes. So you give TV the elimination that, you know, we thought they wanted and all this stuff. And, but people were, you know, really, I think there's momentum within the industry of why 36 makes sense. And I do think that, I don't think it's going to happen. So sorry to burst your bubble as I'm talking about this for those who want it.
You might want to say that one more time and be very clear about it.
Well, I think it has been considered and is on the table as like an option. They have looked at it. They are looking at it. It's not, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. They have at least considered it, which I don't think that at the start of the season you could have said. So that was really interesting. But the argument then comes in about what kind of impact that would have. And I think in a vacuum, people sort of feel like that would be the best way to decide the champion, but there's other interests at play. And that's part of the issue, right? And could you get past those? For instance, like the tracks, it means something to the tracks where we've heard that the tracks say, hey, our fans, like they get excited about a playoff race. They say, oh, there's a playoff race? Because whether we on this podcast or listeners want to admit it or not, a lot of people that go to races are not the most hardcore fans. It's casual fans too. So you tell them, oh, we've got a playoff race and there's a playoff. Oh, NASCAR playoffs. That's cool. What it like it,
the stakes are higher. It heightens the stakes.
The tracks say that they can sell tickets off having a playoff race versus having it called race number 29 of the season. Okay. I guess to a small degree as well, to at least some small degree, some minor degree, the teams who make the playoffs benefit sponsorship wise by those companies saying, hey, you know, we have a playoff car. So this is important to us that we're going to get more TV time. We're probably going to get talked about more. We're going to get shown more. And so that is some sort of financial significance to the teams. And, you know, when you know, we don't know, yeah, let me back up for a second before I keep going with this, because I was going to mention TV. The Jeff Burton clip on Door Bumper Clear last week got a lot of play. You probably either, if you didn't listen to Door Bumper Clear, you probably saw it on social media Jeff Burton is insisting that, hey, it's TV's not making this decision, right? And I think that TV was going to have the chance to have a big voice. And I think I'm guessing, probably caught wind of the conversation and didn't like themselves being in that conversation. Didn't like hearing that people are saying, well, TV wants this, TV wants this, TV, this is going to be this way because of TV, which there was some, they had, that is part of it. Like, they have a huge seat at the table.
They're paying $1 billion+ dollars. Yeah.
But we were told in this committee meeting, that NASCAR was very pleased with the recent meeting they just had with NBC, and NBC, I'm paraphrasing from what I understand, essentially told them, hey, you guys do what's best for the sport. Okay. You guys make the decision. We're not making this decision. So if you think whatever's best, you NASCAR, you make the decision. We're taking a step back here we don't want to be blamed or whatever for whatever happens. So, I think that's NASCAR is looking at it. It's NASCAR's decision, and it's not the committee. It's not TV. It's NASCAR's. Whatever happens is going to be NASCAR's decision. And but they have to look at the entire view. And part of that as well is, let's say the next time a TV package comes up. So there's, you are trying to say, hey, NBC or whoever, okay, this part of the season is the playoffs week. We'll sell you this package, right? Do you get less money for the sport? I'm just asking hypothetically, do you get less money for the sport if you say, okay, now this is race number 25 to 36 or race number 24 to 36 that you get or whatever. And it's not playoffs at a time when the NFL is going on, right? So these are sort of the things that I think could ultimately be holdups for the 36 race thing, because I just don't know if at this point everybody is ready to totally blow up the playoffs. Because there are, believe it or not, for those of you who like 36, I know this is shocking, there are a lot of people who like the playoffs.
Really?
I was hosting on, yes.
Shocking.
I was hosting on.
All I'm told, Jeff, is that everybody hates the playoffs, and the majority of fans, almost every fan, hates the playoffs. That's what I've been told. I was wrong.
Jordan, even if the majority do want 36, I don't think it's a huge majority. I think that the fan base is split. Huh. And also, I kind of got an anecdotal lesson in this the other day. I was hosting Sirius, and I brought up the playoff conversation. And so we had calls come in. We took 6 calls just off this randomly calling in, right? 5 of the 6 people not only wanted playoffs, they were upset with me that I brought up that the playoffs might be changing. They want 1 race playoff. They do not even want a change at all. 5 of the.
This is
hearsay. I was
hearsay.
Surprised.
Oh my goodness.
Jordan, stop. Be serious. I really legitimately was surprised by this. No, come on, dude. Seriously. Like you're that didn't surprise you? You expected that people that like the 1 race playoff that much?
Yeah. I don't fall, because I talked to like we fall into this trap of like, because people
the microphone, you're like okay.
That better? The mic keeps going low. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We fall into this trap of falling in love with what we listen to, the loudest voices on social media. And the loudest voices on social media have been screaming for a season-long championship. And I have said this, and I've tried to say that what is said on social media is not necessarily reflective of what the overall NASCAR fan base wants. And to sit there and pretend that because you're on social media screaming about this, and this is what we want, because this is what I want, that doesn't make it true. If flipping to a season-long championship was going to cure NASCAR's issues with TV ratings and rejuvenate the sport, don't you think they would have flipped a long time ago? The answer is yes. So no, I'm not surprised because I know that this isn't true. I've talked to people. I've had people comment to me about this. I've talked to people who've looked at the data and like they have said, like, there is a reason why we do playoffs. And so, no, it's it's refreshing to actually hear somebody who has been screaming about, this is what people are saying about on social media. Like, that isn't, again, just because there is a vocal group of people on social media screaming about this doesn't make it reality. And so it's just surprising, I guess, to actually hear somebody say this.
Well, I wouldn't dismiss that group either. I mean,
I'm not trying to dismiss
I ran a poll about the playoffs and I got over 30,000 votes. So it's not like,
sure,
there's not an insignificant group of people. But I do think that ultimately I kind of am, even though I think 36 races would be cool because it would make every race important. And I think that I don't think that you could build your way into a championship. So I think it would be close and I think it would be compelling and I think it would help build stars. And for all those reasons, I'd like to see it. But I also recognized, which is how I started the year, that it's probably going to be a compromise. And when you think about the playoffs now, what are the complaints about the playoffs? How did this get so off track with the one race? Because the one race wasn't, it wasn't roundly criticized to start. I mean, people. No,
I feel like this is a case of Joey Logano if Joey Logano doesn't win the championship last year, if it was a Chase Elliott or a Kyle Larson who had done what Logano had done, I don't think we're having this conversation. I think a lot of this is the fact that it was Joey Logano, one of the least liked drivers in the sport, who loudly gets the second or third loudest boos every single week, did what he did, and it pissed people off.
No, I think it was how he did it.
How he did it. Yes, exactly. How he did it. And if it would have been somebody else, if it would have been an Elliott or some other popular driver, and they would have done it in the same manner, I don't think that the screams would have been nearly as loud. They still would have been there, but they would not have reached this volume. But I think that was the tipping point.
Well, I think that in general, Penske has sort of seemed to come out of nowhere. And once fans started to feel like the champion is not representative of what they saw all year, especially in a one race playoff where one team is really good at one track, that's a problem. So what is NASCAR planning to do to address this? They're planning to expand the final round. Jordan reported on DBC.
Oh, I just threw out a hypothetical, Jeff. Did not report, just threw out a hypothetical about potentially what could have happened.
Okay. Well, you said that there was going to be a 3-3-4 format. Mm-hmm. And then last week on DBC, Freddie Kraft said 6 drivers for the final round of 4 race final round. Now, I hadn't heard these things, but that was certainly what was talked about in the committee meeting.
Oh,
so I'm sure you're very proud of yourself, Jordan.
Just got lucky, man. Throwing hypotheticals out there and just got lucky.
Okay. Well, again, this stuff's not finalized because there's still, there's a lot of tweaks to be made and how they do it and how do you advance and how do they do the points and how the eligibility and, that's all stuff that NASCAR is still trying to work through and trying to figure out what's the right amount of drivers. And, I think like there's a lot of common sense changes that are on the table to address some of the, one thing, for instance, right? Like people have really felt that having playoff points is too complicated, right? Like it's to be talking about different points. It's such a barrier for people trying to get into the sport. So, one thing they're considering is, okay, well, what if they just get rid of playoff points and then they just give you a ton of points for your seeding when you make the playoffs, right? So like, instead of saying, okay, this guy he won the regular season championship and he got all these points. Okay, well, that scratch the playoff points. The regular season champion would just get, I don't know, 50 or 60 points to start the playoff with. So then it's not okay, he won this, he got 5 playoff points, he got 1 for the stage. You know what I'm saying? Like that, I think that's something they're strongly considering because it just makes common sense. That was just too complicated. They still, they're going to have to figure out how to move through the rounds. Do you win it in? How many points for a win in the regular season do you get? Do you increase that? How do you playoff eligibility? There's been a lot of talk about winning in, but I think that the sentiment from NASCAR, I think they like winning in. So, but how do you make it so that, somebody that has a great season in points can also make sure that they're in the playoffs, right? Like you don't want to knock out somebody that had a really great season. There's, they're looking at things like, okay, well, if you were going to, finish, if you made the playoffs as a outside driver, 30th or whatever, and you got eliminated, do you deserve to finish in the top 16 in points? I mean, I think people don't think so, right? Like that's not what the full season points are about. So I think you would, I think one thing they're considering is, okay, could you go back to your spot in points? It's stuff like that. But so I think what they're trying to do, from my impression, is take the criticism about the current format and instead of throw the entire thing out and go back to 36, try to address what some of the criticisms are, like the one race thing. I think everybody got to a point where they're like, the one race thing is too much of a small sample size. How about 4 races? Okay. Like would that tweak things? Now, to me, is it going to move the needle? Like, is this going to dramatically change the sport? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think going from a 1 race final round to 4 race round is going to make things, wow, oh my gosh, but I think it certainly makes it so that there's a much higher chance of the champion not having some randomness and not having, going out and earning it. And, like next year, if it's a 4 race final round, as we talked about, it would be Phoenix, Talladega, Martinsville, Homestead. Yes, Talladega's in there, but I think the other 3 races give you enough a chance to have a true championship race. And if it's 6 drivers, I mean, nobody's going to run away with it. So you won't have, it's all about a compromise, So again, while I do think that 36 is, certainly has more momentum than it did, is at least being talked about and thought about, I just got the sense that ultimately I don't know if that will happen, but I will say this. I think that was the last committee meeting. There was 3. I mean, we had one in February, May, and now this one. And I really got the impression, they didn't say this, but I got the impression as it ended, it's like, all right, well, thanks for the feedback. We're going to take it from here kind of thing, right? Like, I think it's no, seriously. I mean, I think it's NASCAR. We never voted on anything. Yeah. We never, it wasn't like, hey, you guys come up with something and we're going to determine it in this. It was like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? People gave their feedback and now it's NASCAR's choice. They're going to have to do it. I will say one last thing, I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you get like a goodie bag or anything, or like a certificate that says like I participated in the playoff committee 2025?
No, but I got to talk about it on the podcast, so that's good. I feel like you should share it with all of you.
Yeah,
I don't need anything. I don't want anything. But I will say, Jordan, as well. I do think that if they decide, whatever they decide, we will not be hearing about it until after this playoffs is over. There's a strong sentiment that if they announce something, in October, here's the playoff format for next year. Oh, it's 4 races, like Jordan said, or whatever. Not they would say that, but
you think they can name the format after me?
Oh my God.
I'm just throwing out ideas out there. Just, do you think? I mean, like I could get like a round named after. Remember how we used to have the eliminator round and then like the dominator round or whatever the heck it was?
The challenger round, the contender round.
You think we could get like a round named after me? Or we could do like a teardown round? That would be kind of cool.
You need help. Anyway, I think there's a strong feeling that if they announce something before, then it will totally overshadow and ruin whoever wins the championship this year. Because everybody's going to go, oh, the one race. Yeah. Oh yeah, but that's not even legit because it's already changing for next year. So blah, 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 blah. So
no,
I think we will hear what they have finalized and what they've decided after the season's concluded. Is my strong guess, which is obviously in my opinion, the right thing to do.
I wholeheartely agree. And let me just say this. If you go back historically, go back to 2014 when they announced this knockout format. I believe it got announced in January. You go back to 2017 when they announced the stages and this kind of sweeping, I don't say sweeping, but they announced a kind of a revision to this format and everything. That was also in January. Each year, we as media members meet with NASCAR and go over a bunch of different things in terms of rules, procedures, stuff like that. I would guess that it's probably going to fall in line, something like that. It just would make sense.
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty much what I know. I don't really know that I left anything out for the most part, but obviously not trying to step on any toes if anybody else that is on the committee wants to share their perspective of stuff they said. All I said was, hey, yay, 36 races. I'd like that. And then I asked why, why can't they, or what's the downside, or, what are some of the, help me understand the forces within the industry that this would not be good for. Cause I mean, again, like, let's say this worked long-term. Let's say going to a 36 race thing was like the answer. You probably wouldn't know that for 3, 4 years, 5 years. Cause it would you'd probably have to, I honestly think like the sport would probably have to take a step back first. You'd probably have maybe even lower ratings, possible lower attendance end of the season, maybe for the first, couple years of it. I think over time it could build up into something where it's like, okay, now this is what we needed. This was cool. We got some momentum back, but it wouldn't be a immediate fix. So I think there's a lot of, sort of the commercial side of the sport. Like, I don't know that would be, they might be doing more harm. So that's what they have to think about and consider. What do they want to be? What do they want to do? It's out of everybody's hands now, but NASCAR. So we will all wait and see what happens, but there you go.
There you go. Change is likely. I think we can agree.
I think so. All right, everybody. Well, Kansas is next week. The return to the 1.5 mile racing should be fun. Hopefully. I mean, Kansas, don't let us down. And then off to the Roval. So everybody, thank you as always for listening, and we will talk to you next time on the Teardown. See you, everybody.